Well, it's an important first step in South Africa's fight against corruption. That's how President Cyril Ramaphosa describes the public release of the first SIU report into the government's dodgy COVID-19 deals. More than half of these contracts, worth upwards of some 14 billion rand, have been found to be irregular. As it stands, 45 cases in particular are sitting with the Special Tribunal, which is involved in recouping the billions lost. The ball's now in the NPA's court to prosecute. Advocate Willie Hofmeyr used to head up the SIU and the NPA's assets forfeiture unit, and he joins us live now from the capital. Advocate Hofmeyr, thank you so much for joining us. Can you just describe the term irregular legalese to the layman, please?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. Just a small correction, I'm not an advocate, so please just call me Willie. Irregular expenditure is essentially expenditure that did not follow all the legal prescripts in the process. So it's not necessarily that it has to be corrupt, but essentially it was not, it's invalid because it did not follow the correct procedures.
Okay, thanks for correcting me there, Willie. The SIU investigated 5,400 contracts. 2,803 of these were found to be irregular. 224 cases referred for disciplinary action. The problem, it seems, is that very little is being done by the departments. Do they have to do something about the recommendations that were made by the SIU, or can they let them just pass?
Unfortunately, the situation is that they are not legally obliged to follow the recommendations of the SIU. I think there is an option for the SIU to take them to the special tribunal that exists, and that is sort of a semi-judicial kind of body, so it can make binding recommendations. But at the moment, you know, I think one of the problems with SIU is that there is not, apart from the tribunal, there isn't a mechanism to enforce the findings.
So in essence, what you're saying to me really is that it's toothless.
I wouldn't put it that strongly. I mean, the normal process is that it does the investigations and it then passes the product of its investigations, which is normally a fairly completed criminal docket. It passes that to the NPA, and it's the NPA then that must institute the criminal action against those concerned.
So it's an investigative arm, if you like, to assist the NPA in not only possibly criminal prosecutions, but also to help the AFU recoup some of the money. Cyril Ramaphosa said when he...
Let me just can I just do a short correction?
Sure.
So the SIU isn't toothless, but the remedies that it has is essentially normal civil action. So it can sue all those people at the tribunal, all the people that they have found guilty. They can take them to the tribunal. The tribunal can make rulings to deprive them of the proceeds of their actions. But it is a much longer process than doing it through the asset forfeiture unit or through the NPA directly.
Willie, does it have the capacity to, you know, make sure that that civil litigation is done, you know, properly? It's a lot of work, especially with forensic accounting, etc.
It is, but, you know, I think over the years, the SIU has built up a lot of capacity to deal with the civil litigation. So in fact, I think it probably in some ways has a better capacity than the NPA because it has more people dedicated to working on corruption issues. But it's just for a criminal prosecution to happen, that has to be done in collaboration with the NPA, essentially, because it's the only body that can do criminal prosecutions.
The President said yesterday, and I quote, "This investigation proves our determination to root out corruption and to deal with perpetrators. But the SIU has said it's very disappointed with the slow pace of accountability, that district, municipalities, etc., are really dragging their heels in terms of disciplinary processes and making sure there is some kind of recourse or justice for those who have committed irregular contracts or procurement incorrectly.
Yeah, I think, that for me is part of the weakness of the legislative framework for the SIU. I think it probably has the biggest anti-corruption capacity in the country, so it has very good people, very experienced in doing the investigations, but in the end they have to hand over the product to somebody else who doesn't necessarily have been involved in the case to do a criminal case. So, I think one of the suggestions that there has been from the ANC itself, as far as I can gather, and that is to set up a national anti-corruption unit that will deal with all corruption cases. And I think for me, this just demonstrates again why such a body is very important, that we don't have this passing of cases between different institutions where things get lost in translation.
All right, thank you so much. So it sounds like the system is fragmented and you said it should be a wider umbrella body. Thank you so much. That's Willie Hofmeyr. Thank you so much for your time.